But this really illustrates the idea of folklorization, which Kirsch and Black-Gimblett argues is that heritage enterprise in general is a mode of cultural production, constructing ideas, that gives the endangered or outmoded a second life as an exhibit of itself. So it folklorizes something, it places it in a static position. So it can be argued that this concept is a self-conscious awareness of the value of one's traditions to others. And what I mean by others are those that non-source practitioners, community members, groups, individuals. So that its spontaneity and life are transformed into artifice. It becomes a bit artificial. The once ever evolving, living, vitalized expression becomes stuck in time in an empty shell. So in a way it loses its soul. So I promised I'd talk about some of the strengths or question maybe if there are. Brown argues that this idea of intangible cultural heritage has really helped the heritage sector in general because we're dematerializing this concept of heritage in general. We have tangible heritage, immovable, monumental. We have the values that are associated with cultural landscapes, natural sites, and then also expressions that are associated with objects, the information around museum objects. And we also have tangible cultural expressions without any physical manifestations, expressions that stand on their own. So really it's this breaking down of the heritage idea. There's also recognition given to local communities within the convention text and within the UNESCO framework. It's mentioned that there are links to identity and social cohesion can be heightened. That's positive. However, I'll still note or argue that will this recognition lead to empowerment? Where does the power really lie? You can recognize. Who's recognizing? And does it really infiltrate and trickle down to that local level? So that wide acceptance, 127, according to the UNESCO website, 127 states parties have signed on to the convention. It's popular, it's widespread. Is that an advantage? Are we all getting onto the same page? Maybe it's not just non-Western or exotic if European countries are starting to look within their territories, the typical Western countries, to see what exists throughout France and Italy, etc., so that we realize there is intangible cultural heritage in Paris and not just in Timbuktu. And also it's vague. Again, the convention text is vague. The only thing states parties are obligated to do, legally bound to do, is create those national inventories. So otherwise, the rest is a bit of suggestions or guidelines. So maybe that vagueness is an advantage, that we can sit and critique what already is there. There's room for improvement, room for alternative methods. Perhaps that is a good thing. And so just to summarize, am I okay with time? Okay. Again, inherent to the concept of intangible cultural heritage as promoted by UNESCO, as conceptualized by UNESCO. It's a categorical tool, it's a category. It helps to categorize diversity. It represents diversity by proxy. So that idea of the representative list or even national inventories. You pick an intangible cultural expression and it's meant to represent others. But let me tell you, the rapper dance can't represent any other dance on this planet. And it can't be put into a performing arts category either. It is just what it is. It's nuanced and unique. And also this idea of valorizing heritage. We're adding values. It goes from local, nuanced, specific, to national, international, regional. The heritage of humanity. We also risk fossilizing, killing heritage if we use traditional museological practices, which is what propels this framework. The idea of folklorization, right? The process of safeguarding becomes a self-conscious process. So then we start to, in a way, act the way we think others want us to act. We put on shows. Intangible heritage becomes a performance. It also becomes a tourist destination. We think of tourist destinations as places, immovable heritage. Well, think about it. A dance, the masquerade becomes a place to visit. Some ephemeral event becomes a list, a tourist list, a to-do list. What these all have in common is this idea that we risk severing the ties between intangible cultural heritage and its source communities, the groups and individuals, the meanings, the significance, the values that are embodied within them that they know so intimately. as well as the places in which intangible cultural heritage has evolved, is expressed. So really we're breaking up those interconnected relationships I talked about earlier. So really these are just some ideas we can, to help kick off the next couple of days. And I hope we have some good discussions around this. So thank you.